at least I'm going to do my part. And my colleagues will vote the way they think is best to keep the committee moving forward. There are things we can agree on in this committee. Sometimes we can't. I hope Senator Feinstein returns quickly. I hope she recovers and have her back. But the point I'm trying to make is the committee can operate. Sometimes we just can't agree, and that's just part of life. The letter we received about the whistleblower, I don't know what's what. I just know what I read and what I hear. I hope the committee will take this seriously. I think Finance and Ways and Means have the first shot at this. But the whole idea that maybe the investigation was compromised is a DOJ matter, not just an IRS matter. And many of us worked in a bipartisan fashion with the Mueller investigation. And I don't know where this leads, but I do know we need to embrace the idea that we're going to look long and hard in any accusation that an investigation was compromised. And I hope we can do that in a bipartisan fashion. Also, I've received some information today about a letter that 51 national security experts signed about the Hunter Biden laptop. And, Mr. Chairman, we need to get to the bottom of how 51 of the most recognized people in the national security intel space would sign a letter saying that a laptop was Russian disinformation when it wasn't. We're not going to let this go. Thank you.
I would just add that I concur with the belief that there should be no interference in these investigations. I think the president was right to retain the U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump in Delaware. David Weiss, I believe, is his name. And I have no indication that we have even thought about interfering, let alone tried to interfere with his efforts. This whistleblower contact was made to our office and appears to be a request for whistleblower status in the Department of Treasury, which of course is not in our jurisdiction. That would be, as you mentioned, Finance Committee or some other agency. As I said to the press earlier, we take all whistleblower statements seriously, as we should. Some turn out to be very important and some not, but we take them all seriously at the outset and look at them closely. So that's one of the elements that we are going to be discussing and watching as we move forward. Let me start by reading the
Mr. Chairman.
Work and to all my colleagues who made this day possible, thank you very much. Senator Kennedy and Cassidy, I think you've chosen wisely. Mr. Long, what role did you have at the FBI?
Senator, I was Deputy Chief of Staff to Director Wray.
Okay. What period of time?
This would have been in 2020 and the first half of 2021, and for a brief period of time, I was also the Acting Chief of Staff.
Okay. You were there on January 6th?
I was.
So what have you learned from that experience? What's your takeaway about January 6th?
Well, I want to be a little careful here, Senator. There are a number of open investigations and open cases right here in the District of Columbia. As a judicial nominee and a department attorney, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on January 6 cases.
I'm not asking you to talk about the cases, about the event itself.
Well, again, Senator, I'm
Would you say it's a good day or a bad day for America?
It was a bad day for America, Senator.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I agree with you. So, the FBI. The FBI is taking a beating right now, at least on our side of the aisle. Did you have any knowledge of some of the accusations being made about FBI's handling of the Steele dossier? Anything about the Hunter Biden investigation, about whether or not Mr. Weiss had all the power he needed? Do you know anything about that moment in time?
Well, with respect to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, that predated my role at the FBI by a few years. With respect to the more recent investigations, no, I don't have any information. I haven't been at the FBI in over 2 years. I've been prosecuting cases in New Orleans over the past 2 years, so I don't have any information about those investigations.
So you were there up until mid-21, is that right?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. So apparently some of these allegations by whistleblowers were made in the middle of 20. Were you aware of any allegations being made regarding the investigation of Hunter Biden as not being fair?
Well, my understanding, Senator, is that there is an open investigation involving
No, my
Hunter
question,
Biden.
did you know anything about this?
I don't have any information. No, I did not know anything about this.
So you don't know, you have no recollection of Mr. Weiss asking for special counsel additional assistance status?
Again, Senator, this involves an open investigation. As a Department of Justice attorney, as well as a judicial nominee, I'm bound not to comment on open investigations.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Booker, I want to turn to Ranking Member Graham for opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to applaud my colleagues from Louisiana finding a way to move forward. Elections do have consequences, and I think people on our side of the aisle have been trying to work with the White House, particularly at the district court level, to get people that we can find consensus on, and that's sort of the way the system works, and we'll continue along those roads, down those roads. A couple of matters, and I won't take long. I wrote a letter to Mr. Weiss about the U.S. Attorney handling the Biden investigation in Delaware, about some of the accusations made by whistleblowers about Mr. Weiss being denied the ability to become a special counsel. In my letter, I think he said no. I need a better answer, a more clear one, that he did not seek special counsel status, was not denied. In the letter, he seems to indicate that he was not rebuffed by D.C. or California U.S. attorneys to bring more serious charges. But again, I think we need more clarity there. But this is one area that was a complete blow-off. The 1023 allegations that we've talked about pretty extensively that Senator Grassley, to his credit, discovered came from whistleblowers telling Senator Grassley that there was an investigative form called a 1023 that had allegations coming from a paid informant the FBI considered to be reliable, along the lines that a Burisma senior official, gas company in Ukraine, apparently said that he had tape recordings of conversations between him, Hunter Biden, and at the time, former Vice President Biden, which would run completely contrary to what President Biden said. I don't know if those allegations are true, but here's what I do know, that the U.S. attorney involved in the clearinghouse endeavors, the Attorney General Barr said he had a system that when allegations were made, he sent them to a U.S. attorney, I think in Pennsylvania, Mr. Brady, to look and see if they were worthy of consideration by Mr. Weiss. One thing I do know is that those allegations contained in the 1023 went through that system and the information was forwarded to Mr. Weiss. A briefing was provided by FBI agents and others regarding the extent of the allegations contained in the 1023, and that's where the trail ends. In the letter back to me, Mr. Weiss said he could not comment on the handling of the 1023 allegations because of an ongoing criminal investigation. That means one of three things: that they're still looking at those allegations and may bring about additional charges beyond what we read about in the paper. They have looked at the allegations and disposed of them, or they never looked at all. What I want to know is the answer to the question, what did you do with the allegations? I think the ongoing criminal investigation is about to be ended with a plea deal, it appears, And I can promise you, Mr. Chairman, the trust level on this side is incredibly low. And we have accusations of thumbs on the scale during the course of this investigation of Mr. Biden. And one of the allegations, the 1023, if accurate, shows interaction contrary to every public statement being made. And again, it may be just rumor and innuendo, but we need to find out what happened on Mr. Weiss's watch regarding the allegations contained in the 1023 discovered by Senator Grassley that came from a whistleblower. And I needed a more direct answer from him on, were you ever denied special counsel status? Was there anybody there in DOJ dissuading you from seeking more serious charges in other venues? So I just want to let you know, Mr. Chairman, the letter did not answer my questions. It created more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Graham. Of course, the president made the decision that the attorney who would investigate his own son would be the Trump appointee in the state of Delaware, and that the administration would take a hands-off attitude toward that investigation. Nothing has been disclosed to my knowledge that contradicts that goal, nor the result that followed. It's up to individual senators to ask questions if they wish. We are going to focus on that issue if it comes before us. Yeah. But we have other business today, which is of great importance to.
And I don't want to delay the committee any longer, but your statement about there's nothing to suggest that this was done anything above being above board. There's plenty of suggestions. I think there's 6 whistleblowers, I can't remember 2 I know of, that suggest that this thing was not handled in the normal course of business. And in that regard, we will keep asking questions. Thank you.
It is true that it wasn't handled in an ordinary course because the President of the United States allowed the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, a Trump appointee, to continue the investigation of my son. And much of the evidence that we're discussing has at one point been in the hands of then Attorney General Bill Barr working for President Trump, or even the President's personal counsel, Rudolph Giuliani. So there's a lot more to the story than
okay, so what happened to the 1023? Do you know? Was it looked at? Was it investigated? What did they find? Who did they talk to? If you know about that, please share it with me. Thank you very much, and we hope Senator Durbin has a full recovery. And so really not about the hearing, but sort of a notice to the committee. What's going on in the House with the 2 IRS whistleblowers, if you followed that, is getting to be incredibly unnerving about the accusations they're making about how the Hunter Biden case was handled. Mr. Garland said he had absolutely no influence. Mr. Weiss has said that, he made all the calls. Well, something's not adding up because there's direct contradiction of those scenarios. So when Senator Durbin gets back, I think it's very important that we get the Attorney General before this committee to reconcile what happened. And one of our nominees today, I think Ms. Garrett, praised Alexander Vindman for his remarkable courage to come forward and kickstart the first impeachment inquiry about President Trump. Well, I hope she feels the same way about whistleblowers in general. So just remember that statement. And thank you very much, and I'm ready for the hearing to start. Thank you very much. Ms. Garnett, you authored a opinion piece with another individual about whistleblowers, and I think in New York law, compelling people to come forward. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator.
In the first paragraph, you says, this is in 2019, I think, over the past few weeks, the country has been riveted by the news of a whistleblower within the intelligence community who filed a formal complaint alleging wrongdoing by President Trump. In turn, we have watched the whistleblower defamed by the president, his allies, even accused of treason despite his having meticulously followed the lawful process to report possible criminal conduct. This took remarkable courage. There was no legal obligation to report it. There were serious risks to career, reputation, even personal safety for doing so. Was that your view, Mr. Vitterman?
Yes, Senator, I stand by what I wrote in that op-ed.
Are you aware that whistleblowers have come forward from the IRS challenging the impartiality of the Hunter Biden investigation?
Yes, I've read about that in the newspaper.
Okay. So would your kind words extend to them?
Yes, I think, Senator, as I've said repeatedly when I was commissioner of the New York City Department of Investigation, that having lawful channels for government employees to come forward to report what they believe is wrongful, fraudulent, corrupt conduct is vitally important to honest government. And I would extend that view to any whistleblower, yes.
Ms. Hall, you worked with Mr. Weiss, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
What time periods did you work for him?
I was hired in that office by former United States Attorney Oberle in 2011. Mr. Weiss was in the office in a career position at that time, and I left the office in 2019 when I took the job as a United States magistrate judge.
In 2019, 2018, were you aware of the investigation of Hunter Biden by Mr. Weiss?
Sitting here today, I can't remember if I knew that there was an investigation at that time. I've since learned in the news that the investigation originated while I was still at the office, but I had no involvement in that investigation while I was at the office.
Was there any chatter in the office about this investigation at all?
Not that I recall, Senator.
Okay, so you know nothing about it.
I know nothing about this investigation.
Are you aware of recent reports that on October the 7th, 2022, two whistleblowers claimed to have been in attendance at a meeting with Mr. Weiss, where he indicated that the decision of how to charge and where to charge Hunter Biden was not his. It was other people had made that decision.
I am aware from reading the newspaper that there are whistleblowers that have come forward.
Given what you know about Mr. Weiss, how does that strike you?
I appreciate the question, Senator. The Code of Conduct for United States federal judges prohibits me from commenting on any pending case pending before any court, and so I don't feel that it'd be appropriate for me to comment on anything regarding a pending case. I can tell you that I have no involvement in that case.
Well, Ms. Garnett, based on your view of whistleblowers, all of us should take these allegations seriously. Do you agree?
Yes, Senator. I would say in my experience as almost 2 decades as a prosecutor and investigator that my own approach would not to be to take the word of any whistleblower, informant, cooperating witness at face value and look for corroboration. But I definitely, as I said in my previous answer.
And if you found corroboration, what does that mean to you?
I'm sorry, Senator.
If you found corroboration of what they said, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think that any investigator or prosecutor would view corroboration as important to assessing the credibility of witnesses.
Ms. Hall, are you aware that one of the whistleblowers actually sent an email about the meeting to other people in real time, identifying the substance of the allegation on the same day it was made?
I was not aware of that, Senator.
Ms. Garnett, would you consider that corroboration?
I don't know the facts of this case, Senator, but I would, in my experience as a prosecutor, contemporaneous statements are important in assessing witnesses' credibility, yes.
Thank you. As Mahalachik, is that right?
Mahalchik, yes,
Yeah,
Senator.
thank you. So you were a magistrate judge. The Spainer case, did I say that, Graham Spainer?
Yes,
He was the former president of Penn State. He was convicted by state court, and you granted a habeas petition. Can you tell us a bit about that?
yes, Senator. He petitioned the court to seeking his conviction to be set aside and a new trial granted due to a jury instruction that was given by the state court, and that was his request.
And you granted that request?
After a careful review of the law related to that habeas petition and the arguments made by the parties, I determined that the jury instruction that was given by the state court was in violation of the petitioner's due process, yes.
Did the Third Circuit overrule your decision?
Yes, they did.
How many times have you been overruled by higher courts?
In my decade on the bench, Senator, I have issued over 1,500 written opinions and memorandum decisions and reports and recommendations in civil matters, and issued.
Are all of those reviewed by higher courts?
And then, in addition to that, the over 1,000 criminal orders and decisions on release and detention, and they are all subject to review by either the district court or.
Were they reviewed?
They were not all reviewed because the parties didn't always seek review of
Yeah.
them. And
So I've been told that you've been reversed 31 times. Does that sound about right?
that sounds about right. Of those 31, I believe at least 2/3 of them were only in part.
Yeah. So you were criticized by the court for not understanding the 11th Amendment applied to cities. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there are not many of us here, so I'll just try to wrap it up. The 11th Amendment applied to cities, not just states. Do you remember that case?
I don't know specifically which case you're referring to, Senator.
Okay. Do you remember a case where the court criticized you for confusing sovereign immunity and qualified immunity, the Potter City case?
I don't remember that specific case either, Senator.
Okay, thank you.